As written, First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton. Remarks for the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women. Beijing, China, September 5th, 1995. Mrs. Mongella, distinguished delegates and guests, I would like to thank you and to thank the Secretary General of the United Nations for inviting me to be part of the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women. This is truly a celebration of the contributions women make in every aspect of life, in the home, on the job, in their communities, as mothers, wives and sisters, daughters, learners, workers, citizens, and leaders. It is also a coming together, much the way women come together every day in every country. We come together in fields and in factories, in village markets and supermarkets, in living rooms and in boardrooms. Whether it is while playing with our children in the park, or washing clothes in the river, or taking a break at the office water cooler, we come together and talk about our aspirations and our concerns. And time again, our talk turns to our children and to our families. However different it may be, there is far more that unites us than divides us. We share a common future, and we are here to find common ground so that we may help bring new dignity and respect to women and girls all over the world. And in doing so, bring new strength and stability to families as well. By gathering in Beijing, we are focusing world attention on issues that matter most in the lives of women and their families. Access to education, healthcare, jobs, and credit. The chance to enjoy basic legal and human rights, and participate fully in the political life of their countries. There are some who question the reason for this conference. Let them listen to the voices of women in their homes, in their neighborhoods, and in their workplaces. There are some who question and wonder whether the lives of women and girls matter to the economic and political progress made around the globe. Let them look at the women gathered here and in places such as Huairu, the homemakers, the nurses, the teachers, the lawyers, the policy makers, and women who run their own businesses. It is a conference like this that compel governments and peoples everywhere to listen, look, and face the world's most pressing problems. It wasn't after the Women's Conference in Nairobi 10 years ago that the world focused for the first time on the crisis of domestic violence. Earlier today, I participated in a World Health Organization forum where government officials, NGOs, and individual citizens are working on ways to address the health problems of women and girls. Tomorrow, I will attend a gathering of the United Nations Development Fund for Women. There, the discussion will focus on local and highly successful programs that give hardworking women access to credit so that they can improve their own lives and the lives of their families. What we are learning around the world is that if women are healthy and educated, such as myself, then their families will flourish. If women are free from violence, then their families will flourish. If women have a chance to work and earn as full and equal partners in society, their families will flourish. And when families flourish, communities and nations too will flourish. That is why every woman, every man, every child, every family, and every nation on our planet has a stake in the discussion that takes place here. Over the past 25 years, I have worked persistently on issues relating to women, children, and families. Over the past 2.5 years, I have had the opportunity to learn more about the challenges facing women in my own country and around the world. I have met new mothers in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, who come together regularly in their village to discuss nutrition, family planning, and baby care. I have met working parents in Denmark who talk about the comfort they feel in knowing that their children can be cared for in creative, safe, and nurturing after-school centers. I've met women in South Africa who've helped lead the struggle to end apartheid and are now helping build a new democracy. I have met with the leading women of the Western Hemisphere who are working every day to promote literacy and better health care for the children of their countries. I have met women in India and in Bangladesh who are taking out small loans to buy milk cows, rickshaws, thread, and other materials to create a livelihood for themselves and for their families. I have met doctors and nurses in Belarus and Ukraine who are trying to keep their children alive in the aftermath of Chernobyl. The great challenge of this conference is to give women a voice everywhere whose experiences go unnoticed, whose words go unheard. Women comprise more than half of the world's population. Women are 70% of the world's poor, and 2/3 of those who are not taught to read or write. Women are the primary caretakers for most of the world's children and elderly, yet much of the work we do is not valued, not by economists, not by historians, not by popular culture, and not by government leaders. At this very moment, as we sit here, women around the world are giving birth, raising children, cooking meals, washing clothes, cleaning houses, planting crops, working on assembly lines, running companies, and running countries. Women are also dying from diseases that should have been prevented or treated. They are watching their children succumb to malnutrition caused by poverty and economic deprivation. They are being denied the right to go to school by their own fathers and brothers, and they are being forced into prostitution. They are being barred from the ballot box and bank lending offices. Those of us who have the opportunity to be here have that responsibility to speak for those who could not. As an American, I want to speak up for women in my own country. Women who are raising children on the minimum wage, women who cannot afford health care or child care, women whose lives are threatened by violence, including violence in their own homes. I want to speak up for mothers who are fighting for good schools, safe neighborhoods, clean air and clean airwaves. COVID. For older women, some of them widows, who have raised their families and now find that their skills and life experiences are not valued in the workplace. For women who are working all night as nurses, hotel clerks, and fast food chefs so that they can be at home during the day with their kids. And for women everywhere who simply don't have the time to do everything they are called upon to do each day. Speaking to you today, I speak for them. Just as each of us speak for women around the world who are denied the chance to go to school, or see a doctor, or own property, or have a say about the direction of their lives simply because they are women. The truth is that most women around the world both work inside and outside the home, usually by necessity. We need to understand that there is no whole formula for how women should lead their lives. That is why we must respect the choices that each woman makes for herself and her family. Every woman deserves the chance to realize her God-given potential. We must also recognize that women will never gain full dignity until their human rights are respected and protected. Our goals for this conference, to strengthen families and societies by empowering women to take greater control over their own destinies, cannot be fully achieved unless all governments, here and around the world, accept their responsibility to protect and promote internationally recognized human rights. The international community has long acknowledged and recently affirmed at Vienna that both women and men are entitled to a range of protections and personal freedoms. from the right of personal security to the right to determine freely the number and spacing of the children they bear. No one should be forced to remain silent for fear of religious or political persecution, arrest, abuse, or torture. Tragically, women are most often the ones whose human rights are violated. Even in the late 20th century, the rape of women continues to be used as an instrument of armed conflict. Women and children make up a large majority of the world's refugees, and when women are excluded from the political process, they become even more vulnerable to abuse. I believe that on the eve of a new millennium, or 2021, it is time to break our silence. It is time for us to say here in America or there in Beijing and to the world for them to hear that it is no longer acceptable to discuss women's rights as separate from human rights. These abuses have continued because, for too long, the history of women has been a history of silence. Even today, there are those who are trying to silence our words. The voices of this conference and of the women at Huayuru must be heard loud and clear. It is a violation of human rights when babies are denied food, or drowned, or suffocated, or their spines broken, simply because they are born girls. It is a violation of human rights when women and girls are sold into slavery of prostitution. It is a violation of human rights when women are doused with gasoline, set on fire, and burned to death because their marriage dowries are deemed too small. It is a violation of human rights when individual women who are raped in their own communities and when thousands of women are subjected to rape as a tactic or prize of war. It is a violation of human rights when a leading cause of death worldwide among women ages 14 to 44 is the violence they are subjected to in their own homes. It is a violation of human rights when young girls are brutalized by the painful and degrading practice of genital mutilation. It is a violation of human rights when women are denied the right to plan their own families, and that includes being forced to have abortions or being sterilized against their will. If there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, it is that human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights. Let us not forget that among those rights are the right to speak freely and the right to be heard. Women must enjoy the right to fully participate in the social and political lives of their countries if we want freedom and democracy to thrive and endure. It is indefensible that many women in non-governmental organizations wish to participate in this conference, have not been able to attend, or have been prohibited from fully taking part. Let me be clear. Freedom means the right of people to assemble, organize, and debate openly. It means respecting the views of those who may disagree with the views of their governments. It means not taking citizens away from their loved ones and jailing them, mistreating them, or denying them their freedom or dignity because of the peaceful expression of their ideas and of their opinions. In my country, we recently celebrated the 75th anniversary of women's suffrage. It took 150 years after the signing of our Declaration of Independence for women to win the right to vote. It took 72 years after that of organized struggle on the part of many courageous men and women to get that done. It was one of America's most divisive philosophical wars, but it was also a bloodless war. Suffrage was achieved without a shot fired. We have also been reminded in VJ Day observances last weekend of the good that comes when women and men join together to combat the forces of tyranny and build a better world. We have seen peace prevail in most places for half a century. We have avoided another world war. But we have not solved older, deeply rooted problems that continue to diminish the potential of half of the world's population, women. Now it is time to act on behalf of women everywhere. If we take bold steps to better the lives of women, we will be taking bold steps to better the lives of children and families too. Families rely on mothers and wives for emotional support and care. Families rely on women for labor in the home. And increasingly, families rely on women for income needed to raise healthy children and care for other relatives. As long as discrimination and inequities remain so commonplace around the world, as long as girls and women are valued less, fed last, overworked, underpaid, not schooled, and subjected to violence in a peaceful, prosperous world, out of their homes, the potential of the human family to create a prosperous world will not be realized. Let this conference be our and the world's call to action. Let us heed the call so that we can create a world in which every woman is treated with respect and dignity. Every boy and every girl is loved and cared for equally, and every family has the hope of a strong and stable future. Thank you very much. God's blessings on you, your work, and all who will benefit from it. My name is Dr. Samantha Jane Antonio, pharmacist, graduate, class of 2020, and this is my cold reading of today's speech. Thank you.